Hello and welcome to Crime Bytes, the show where we talk about some truly bizarre and disturbing crime cases. My name is Liz and today is True Crime Tuesday. So, how about the mothers we've been talking about this month? Yikes. I've got another one for you today too, let me tell you. Can you imagine being jealous of your own mother? Or as a mother being jealous of your daughter? I think the second one might be a little more outrageous, but it does sometimes happen. So today we're going to look at a story that has some of these elements in it, how they may have developed, and ultimately how a series of lies and poor choices ended up costing someone their life. Let's start by meeting Meighan Cordie. At the time of our story, she is a 27-year-old beautician from Oregon. Meighan had struggled with sobriety, but was trying to make better choices for both herself and her 3-year-old daughter, Gia. Meighan's parents, Jennifer and Tony, had divorced back in 2005. He worked as a firefighter. On August 18th of 2018, Jennifer, Meighan, and Gia would all attend a family wedding together in Heiser Farms, which was just outside of Dayton, Oregon. At the time, Meighan and Gia were living in Dayton, and Jennifer was living in King City, which is about a half hour away from Dayton. Now, because Meighan had had some run-ins with the law, with concerns to her sobriety, she had a breathalyzer device in her car and was trying not to drink and drive. The problem was that she still wanted to drink that night, so she asked her mother if she could just ride with her. Jennifer didn't really seem too thrilled by this idea. She would have her daughter Gia with her, and that would mean that she would probably have to leave earlier than she wanted to, so she could be the designated driver for her daughter. In the end, though, she agreed, and the trio hopped into Jennifer's Honda CR-V to go to the wedding. When they got there, they attempted to enjoy themselves, and the evening went on, and a few of the guests would notice that Jennifer was becoming a tad sloppy after having some wine. So sloppy, in fact, that they rated her at about a 6 to 8 on a scale of 1 to 10 for drunkenness. Guests would note that Meighan was drinking as well, but did not seem to be actually drunk. At around 10, Gia would start to get fussy, and Meighan would ask Jennifer to bring them home, at which point a guest observed Jennifer snap at Meighan, saying that she knew this would happen. And the trio would head to Jennifer's car and start back, with the only completely sober person in the car being 3-year-old Gia. Now, exactly what happened next is up for debate, but there are some key pieces of evidence that can be used to help us along this journey of trying to put together what happened that night. So, the three would start out, and the drive would be heated right from before they even got into the car, to the point where Meighan didn't want to stay in the car with Jennifer, and she attempted to call her boyfriend to just come and get her instead of enduring the ride home with her mother. At this point, though, it might be imperative to point out that although she did take precautions not to drive drunk herself, which is great, she still ended up putting herself and her 3-year-old daughter into her mother's car while her mother was clearly under the influence. I don't really understand this choice, but anyways, her boyfriend had to work early the next morning and told her to just basically make it through the ride home with her mother. He would report later that they were screaming at each other during this phone call. The argument would get so bad that Meighan would demand to get out of the car. She would even end up ripping out some of her mother's hair before demanding that she pull over and let her out. She would get out, but she would leave her shoes and her phone in the front seat of Jennifer's car. Jennifer would attempt to circle back and try to convince her to just let her take her home, but she would end up being unable to find her, so she continued driving around looking for her for a little bit before just deciding to leave with Gia still in the back seat. I'm going to pause here for a second because there is just so much going on here. Jennifer is literally putting herself, Meighan, and Gia at risk. Then she basically strands her daughter on the side of the road and just brings her granddaughter home with her. And then goes to sleep without checking in on her daughter because she couldn't anyways. She had her daughter's phone and her shoes at this point. So after not being able to find her daughter and just stranding her on the side of the road, basically she decided to go to bed. Okay, we'll get into why that might be in a little bit. I'm sure you can figure that out. But for now, I will tell you that after she rested and more than likely sobered up enough to feel comfortable with interacting with law enforcement, Jennifer decided to call and report her daughter missing, at which point she would attempt to help locate her daughter. She claimed when she called that she had spent around 2 hours that morning looking for her as well, and that she had drove around and then called her local jails and hospitals before calling the non-emergency line to file a missing persons report. The police would come and search her car, and they would find a clump of Jennifer's hair with the roots still attached to it in the front seat area. It was at this point that she disclosed to them that the fight had in fact been physical between her and her daughter, so bad that Meighan had ripped some of her hair out. They would not be successful in locating Meighan. Then, 2 days after the wedding, some joggers would find Meighan's body at the bottom of an embankment. There were a few problems though, the first being they found Meighan's body about 9 miles away from where her mother was having everyone looking for her. The evidence suggests that Meighan died when she slammed against a guardrail and then rolled down the embankment. She died from blunt force trauma that was arguably incurred from exiting the vehicle at a rate way faster than 5 miles an hour. Trust the science. She also had no damage to the bottom of her bare feet, which indicates she didn't walk anywhere upon exiting the vehicle shoeless. There was damage to and matter on the guardrail. And then Gia's testimony, which included an incident where when one of her family members was accelerating onto the highway, the little girl yelled, "This is how fast Grandma was going when Mom got out of the car." All of these things point to Jennifer going faster than 5 miles an hour when Meighan exited the car, which is what she claimed happened. The police would interview Meighan's daughter, Gia, as well, who would say that her mother went from the front of the car to the back seat with her before exiting again. Jennifer also didn't attempt to call her daughter's cell phone, which it was found in the front seat of her car the next day. So, did Jennifer know Meighan was dead? Or did she actually look for her and try and find her and think that she would just end up showing up at some point? Only Jennifer knows the answer to that one, and unfortunately, with her track record of dishonesty, she would remark that she felt like there was something she was missing, which, yeah, that is likely a possibility. In either event, in spite of all the evidence, Jennifer was not tried for her daughter's murder. She wasn't even prosecuted for manslaughter. Meighan's death would be ruled as accidental, which may be fair. I don't think I can say that's fair. The main reason she didn't end up being tried was because it was pretty clear that Meighan was not pushed from the car, and because both ladies were drunk or intoxicated, there was probably or possibly negligence on both ends. Even if she was drunk, no one would expect someone to jump out of a car while it was moving fast, and Meighan either jumped or fell out because she was unbuckled. I still think that in light of all the evidence, manslaughter would have probably been more appropriate, but alas. Jennifer would end up being charged with driving under the influence as well as reckless endangerment because her 3-year-old granddaughter was in the back seat of her car. This second charge would be dropped as part of a plea deal when she would plead guilty to the first charge. Her lawyer would state that Jennifer accepted full responsibility for driving while intoxicated. That had nothing to do with Meighan's tragic death. Do you agree with him? Let me know what you think. I don't think I do. And do you want to know how Jennifer was sentenced for driving while intoxicated, arguably in a manner that caused her daughter's death? Not to mention the reckless endangerment of her 3-year-old granddaughter. Drum roll, please. She ended up getting jail time, but it was only 5 days. 5 days! And then 3 years of probation after that. I'm sorry, I feel like part of this channel might need to be calling out insane sentences or people getting away with things in the court system. I seem to pick a lot of that sort of thing when I'm choosing these cases lately. 5 days. Anyways, Meighan's father, Tony, would end up suing Jennifer for $500,000, but the case would end up being dropped because, again, Meighan's death was determined to be accidental. What do you guys think about this? I know Jennifer didn't physically push Meighan out of the car, but if she was actually speeding up as she tried to jump out, as evidence suggests is possible, she isn't allowed to have contact with Gia anymore either, which I think is a great decision. I'm not sure if Jennifer is capable of being affected by this on any level beyond how it makes her look, but hey, at least there's that. And that's going to do it, but as always, let's try to end today on a more positive note. Today, we're going to highlight the group MADD, M-A-D-D, or Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Their mission is to see no more victims of drunk or drug driving. They look to provide information to help fight against drunk driving, provide support to victims of these situations, and prevention of underage drinking. This organization started when 13-year-old Carrie Leitner was struck and killed by a drunk driver while walking to a carnival with her friend. The person who killed her was fresh out of jail from his 4th DUI arrest when he came barreling down the road and literally knocked poor Carrie right out of her shoes and threw her 125 feet and killed her. The driver fled but was captured and later charged. This photo was taken just a few hours before her death. Beyond tragic. Carrie's mother, Candace Leitner, started fighting to change the driving laws in California. Other mothers would join her and MADD would be formed. Statistics show that 2 out of 3 people will be affected by drunk driving in their lifetime, which is a crazy high number in my opinion, but also probably accurate. To learn more about this organization or to get involved, visit madd.org. And if you're going to drink and drive, just don't. Nothing positive is going to happen. At the very best, you'll get lucky this time and some 6 cents of false confidence. And until next week, please stay safe out there. Bye.